Last video, we talked all about the architecture of the project. So this time we'll take a look at the actual software and see it in action. So the first thing I'm going to do is log into my Raspberry Pi via VNC. And I'm just going to click on that here. And here we are on the Raspberry Pi desktop. This is the actual Raspberry Pi that's running my Reefberry Pi software. And when this thing boots up, it would immediately launch this process, which is my server application. Normally this would be running in the background, but since I'm actively developing it and debugging it, I have it running in the foreground, and it's showing me some messages that I am currently interested in. So yeah, when this thing boots up, the server just goes right in action and starts executing the script and running the program that was set for it. But as the user, you're going to be interested in the user interface. And like I was explaining before, I made a native application, just something that could run on the Raspberry Pi to let me know what's going on the server and to program this thing. So we're going to load that up here. It takes just a few seconds to go out to the server. You see all these green text over here. These are requests made by my application, going through the message exchange, getting the information back, and loading up my user interface over here. Now, this was all written in Python. The user interface, like I said before, was written with tkinter or tkinter. And yeah, here it is. So this particular Raspberry Pi is configured with 8 outlets, which I have over here. I've implemented the feed mode. I've got a few probes hooked up to this thing. So I have only one temperature probe plugged into there. I have a DHT, which is a digital humidity and temperature sensor hooked up to this. That's where I'm getting these 2 additional readings, one for another temperature and this one's for humidity. And I'm using only one channel of my 8-channel A to D board or A to D chip, which I have a pH probe hooked up to it right now. So everything is all communicating through the message exchange like I was explaining before. You don't see that. That's running in the background. But, here's, where you command everything. So if I were to, execute any or action on any of these outlets, you'll see this text popping up over here in green. Those are messages that are coming in through the message exchange, basically telling it to set these outlets, off. And you can go back and, set them back to, auto or on, however you want to. And it executes the actions. So that's nice. Some other things we could do right from this user interface is to program our outlets. So for instance, this outlet down here, outlet number 8, I have it just set up in a feud circulation. I can come in here, just click that little gear, and then I could change the control type. I have several profiles set up here. Always is either going to be always on or off. I think I've explained this before. We've got, heater, which you could select, one of the temperature probes and set the on and off temperature. Lighting, you could set the time that goes on and off. Return pump and skimmer operate pretty similarly right now. But anyway, you could select one of them. And they're also able to have a feed mode enabled on it. So if you click on one of these feed mode buttons, and this is checked, it'll turn that off for us. So I don't need to mess with anything right there. I have the ability to go in here and work with some charts. And I could, select any combination of the data that I am currently recording, and it'll rebuild the graph for me. And I have several presets down here, 1 day, 3 days, 1 week. I just click on that. It'll go out and get the information from the server and bring it back in and redraw the graph for me. So that's working out pretty good as well. And this will all be expanded, in the future. It's just, all the basic stuff right now. Settings is something that wasn't in here before. I used to have a separate application that handled the settings. I've since, bringing all that functionality into the actual application here, so you only need to run one thing. And it'll have, all of the things that you would expect in here. Here I can enable all the different channels on the A to D board. Like I said, I'm only, running with one right now. It's the only thing I've hooked up on it. And yeah, so it's working pretty good. But, what I really wanted to illustrate was some of the power that's, been afforded to me by going through the message exchange. So why don't we switch out back to the Mac OS. This is a little script that I have that's also connected to the Exchange. And this is just printing out all of the current statuses that are being broadcast out from my server right now. And this is just basically telling me all of the status of the outlets, the latest temperature readings, pH readings, all that stuff is all in here. And it's just, feeding out the information as it comes in. So then if we go back over to the Raspberry Pi, and since the server doesn't really care how many clients are connected to it, we can even launch a second instance of the application, and the server doesn't care. It's like I said before, it's only ever talking to the Exchange server. The Exchange server, or the message exchange, is what is feeding out the data to all of these different clients. So currently I have these two applications which are getting the same exact information, and if I do any change on one of these clients, the change gets propagated out to all of the other clients. So for instance, if you see if I turn the heater off over here, this application over here will know that the heater got turned off, and it'll also switch its state. And there it goes. And I can just go down all these buttons, and it's just all operating through the Exchange. So that everything is synchronized. It all stays up to date at all times, and it works out really, really well. And I could go into here and, operate on this, and it's running completely independently of the other application, and all the time in the background, the server's just doing its thing. So that's pretty cool. But some of the other things that are really nice is, like I said, with Node-RED. So why don't we bring that up, take a quick look at that. So like I was saying before, Node-RED is something that is built in to the Raspberry Pi. And I am not going to go all into that right here. But this is something was completely foreign to me. It takes a little while to get your head around how this works, but once you figure it out, it's pretty straightforward. But basically what to take away from here is, this little orange box up here. This is my connection to the messaging exchange. So all that information that we saw, coming here in this green text is also being fed into here. And all that data gets filtered through all these different nodes where it can act upon that information, do different things. There's a lot in here. It gets kind of messy the more complicated you make things. And then in here are the outlets, so all of the buttons on my dashboard all also have to act upon, that data. And this orange one here is the outlet node, which sends things back to the Exchange. But we don't really need to worry about all of that. What we care about is the actual dashboard, which is right here. So all of this crazy looking stuff results in this nice clean dashboard. Which is getting the same data as we were getting back here on our Reefberry Pi. So let's bring that. Now let's see if we can show both of these at the same time. So I'll just position this like this. And I can show you that by modifying any of the buttons over here, the changes also get propagated, back to this client. So if I turn off all of the buttons here, you see everything is turning off over there on that side. So it's really cool how everything just synchronizes together. It's working really nice. And I'm really happy with how it's working so far. And this dashboard here is just a pretty quick and dirty implementation. It does the basic things, like turn my outlets on, off, or auto, showing me the current status of several of the sensors, and enables me to do the feed modes. So right now, if I want to configure anything, I do have to come back into the actual desktop application, and I can do all the configuration here. That's fine for me right now, but like I was saying before, in the future I would like to build a full-fledged web application, which will do all of the things that the desktop application does, and then I don't have to worry about this or the Node-RED. Everything will just be done in my own custom application. And I think that's about all I can show from right here. I'm going to switch the camera and just kind of bring up the iPad and iPhone apps there, and we can take a look at them as well. All right, so we're switching scenery a little bit, just to give you kind of a little bit of a live demo. I've got a computer hooked up here, which is VNC'd into the Raspberry Pi, which is right there. These are the same two applications I was showing you earlier, or it's the same application. I got two instances of it running. I've got the dashboard running on my MacBook, on my iPad, and also on an iPhone. And these are all connected to the same messaging exchange. And there's all the data. And we can just go through here and just quickly turn off all of these outlets, and you'll see the lights over there, which are the relays that we're controlling. So everything there is working. Pretty cool, but what's really neat is the fact that all of these other applications, the changes were propagated up through there. So for instance, if I were to, I'll set it back to auto over here, and we'll see all of these other devices, switching back. I don't know if I can get them all on camera at the same time, but you can see all of the outlets have all switched back over to auto, and it was all synchronized by the software, kept everything in order. And yeah, so it's working out pretty good. Guess we can also show temperature. Grab my temperature probe out of the aquarium. I'll just hold on to it for a second, and you'll see that top temperature start to increase. And as you can tell, all of the clients are getting the information at the same time, which is pretty cool. So even down there on the phone. So if I drop this back into the water, that temperature should start to come down. And it's in this top temperature here. And they're all dropping at the same time. So it's pretty cool. So everything in regards to that seems to be working pretty good. I still have a ton of work to do. That's a big mess here right now. After I get the software to where I want it to be, I'm going to get back into the hardware and really figure out the best place to mount all this stuff and get it into a nice project box. But that'll be coming soon. So I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to show tonight. And again, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Take care.